All right, all right. We are back in beautiful Belmar, New Jersey. We are back to a chef's podcast. So we have Roy from Park Social, and we have our chef concierge co-host, Chef Mike. So good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you today?
Good afternoon. Salud. Look at this.
Cheers.
Thanks to Roy bringing some nice beverages for everybody. That's very nice.
Roy, thank you for bringing a tall boy in today.
Yes, it's very nice tall boy. Should have
Day
put a
off.
paper bag on it.
I threw
Normally,
the paper bag away, but we did
normally
have
no one brings beer onto the podcast, but we got Roy today. It's his day off, so why not?
Day off, beautiful.
It's beautiful out.
Wings.
Yeah.
So
Let's go.
This is Chef Roy Rollins. He's from Park Social. I've known him over 15 years. Oh, by the way, his call sign is Rasta, which we're going to get later into the podcast about call signs and nicknames. But I've known him for over 15 years. He was one of my sous chefs at 709 back in the day in Point Pleasant, and what a phenomenal guy. He's got a great resume, worked for some really heavy hitters. Attention to detail is his MO. He's very particular, which I love. I love people who are, attentive to detail. But we're excited to have you here. We're gonna talk about some really crazy stuff. So welcome to the Chef Series podcast.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, buddy. Can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. So let's get into that right out of the box. Let's get into
go.
nicknames. So ever since I was a kid doing this, and this is 43 years now, there's always been, which this is the first time we're talking about this on the Chef Series, the nicknames, is everybody gets assigned a nickname in the kitchen, and it kind of sticks with them for life.
Yep.
Like once you get it, once somebody gives you that nickname, it never goes away.
Yep.
And,
Understood.
And I lived in 13 different states following my career, worked for like the best chefs. And every place I worked in, I was given the name Jersey because I'm from Jersey. So they'd always call me Jersey, whatever. But everybody else had nicknames. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them were there when I even got there. But I just got into the knack of just naming people, right, as I see it.
As Jersey saw it, he called it out.
Yeah, so like there was this kid, he was a big stoner, he worked in the back saute with me, so his name was Dimebag. So he's Dimebag for life,
Yep.
Roy, I meet Roy, he comes into my kitchen, first time, we're opening up this like 2011 or something like that, 12, and he's wearing a tam, like Bob Marley would wear, right? He's got the big beard with the tam, right? And I don't know if you had longer hair back then, or maybe...
Oh, I had some hair.
Yeah,
Not so much anymore. But.
He walks in the door, and he's just like, "What's up, man?" I'm like, Rasta, right out of the box. And it stayed with him. Now, so if I tell people that we're in that crew or whatever, I say, I talk to Rasta, and everybody knows who it is. They know it's Roy Rollins.
It's weird.
So...
it's strange, because it does... My son is Little League, and Little Al... out of the parking lot, across the parking lot, Rasta, and it's like, it's
see, I love that. But so our kitchen at 7-9 was it was a great kitchen, but it's not culture appropriated today. Mm-hmm. Okay, we'd probably be all arrested in jail, but we did have a lot of fun. We put out some great food, really great food. And we were very busy, but everyone had a nickname. Mm-hmm. And even the dishwashers, the poor prep kid dishwasher, he couldn't speak a lick of English, but his favorite movie was The Hangover. And he loved Mr. Chow from The Hangover. Yeah. So he would come in and be like, "You look..." So we would just bring up like Mr. Chow, and he'd be laughing hysterically.
Yep.
So his name became Chow.
Yeah.
Mr. Chow. And there was another guy who we called Mad Mike, big guy. And his name was Mad Mike, but he was also the llama from Caddyshack, when he's talking about how he wants to. So he became the llama. So everybody had their names.
Yep, sure.
Tony was SpongeBob. We would just go down the row, and that's what it's kind of like a fighter pilot. They have call signs. Everybody had their sign, and it's still stuck with them today. I know people back in the day. My friend from 35 years ago, we named him Pokey. Mm-hmm. He's still known today as Poke or Pokey or Poke Chop. Anything with a poke in there, that's his name. But
at 709, were you Jersey?
No, I was Chef Mike. Because I just became Chef Mike. Don't call me a nickname or I'll break you. 30 different pieces.
So just because you became the boss, then you got to call
I
yourself
became
what you
the boss.
wanted.
But I was the one that initiated everybody's name. Like it had to come through me. And once I announced it, then everybody
signed up and subscribed.
And there's some nicknames I can't even say on air.
No, don't.
They're not culture appropriated today, but some of them were. We met some.
I think everybody gets it.
Yeah, we met some like Dave, the pizza guy, was Diamond Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was his name. So then we just shortened it to Diamond.
Mm-hmm.
So we got rid of the Dave part. So we walked in, we're like, "What's up, Diamond? What's up?" And
that's how nicknames work, though.
Yeah, but he cultured himself as Diamond, and Ross. Like you would just call people that, like, and everybody knew who you were talking about. It was great. So moving forward with that, which is part of the culture that we established, which made everything fun, because every name really associated with the people. Like that was like a real type dealio. So let's just. So you're at Park Social, very, very beautiful place.
Park Social, yes.
Doing amazing food, beautiful looking plates. I went online. I seen a lot of big social media presence.
Yes.
Big, a lot of reels, a lot of Instagram presence. Places, like I said, decorated gorgeous, but the food is coming out really hot. The food, you got the wood oven pizza. I believe you guys are doing.
We do.
There.
Yep.
Awesome.
Which it's great. It's a pain, to keep up with, but at the same point, the pizza it's such a difference between a regular pizza oven versus a wood burning.
Oh
pizza.
yeah.
There's no coal. There's no gas to it. It's just straight wood.
Yep. No, it's awesome.
It's an art. It really is to pay attention to it, to make sure it's not too hot, not too cold. It's a song and dance with it. So it's fun.
Plus, it's not just for you could do anything in there. You could,
You
could do mussels. You could do all kinds of flatbreads. You could do any kind of cuckoo stuff in that oven. I love those ovens because it was multi-use. You could do calzones, you could do strombolis, but you could also do a lot of appetizers out of there. Escargot, mussel, like you could really get into some cool stuff.
We were pulling out our we have a bone marrow and oyster.
Perfect.
That we were doing originally out of there, but it just pizza took off, which we weren't sure that was going to happen. Right. And it was too much. All at the same point, I think we had 3 or 4 appetizers coming out of there in the very beginning, plus the pizzas. So we had to dial it back to make it efficient, and so which the dish still comes out beautiful at the same point. Yeah. But it's not a huge oven. So again, you can only fit 2, maybe 3 pizzas in there at one time, and then once you start throwing appetizers in there, it's you got to figure out. What's going to be the best option, and pizzas coming out of there is best. So we pulled the appetizers to the back.
No, that's great. It still works. So on this topic, what would you say personally is the most overrated food or concept right now in the business?
Overrated food and or concept.
In your humble opinion.
It's tough. It really is, because I feel things that were old are coming back, and things that are new are dying off. So I think it's a balance more so than what's too much or what's overrated. You can get it can go very overrated with like truffle oil. Very heavy-handed, kills it. Do I think it has its place? Yes, I do. But I think you have to be, very cautious with what you're using it, how you're using it, what you're doing it in. It's a strange thing because we had, a big span of Asian, mixture, which, we dove into a little bit, and we dove into that, and that had its thing, and then I feel like that also faded away. So farm to table, everything has its place a little bit, but I think it has to be done right. I don't think there's any wrong in cooking or overrated in cooking. I think it's not using it properly, I think would be my best answer.
No,
to
that's
that.
cool. The thing I'm
You know.
like overrated with that I'm done with, which I think is done to death right now, is everybody's serving a side dish in like a little basket or some kind of metal bowl or a tin or a little shopping cart that has fries coming out of it. It's like because it's very gimmicky.
Yes.
And back in the day, the gimmick was cool because no one was doing that.
Yeah.
Like everybody had to serve fries in a basket, a fryer basket.
Yeah.
And everybody had to serve. But then they came out with, like I said, a little shopping cart. Like it got so. Or the tin cups. Like we had the tin cups at 709.
Yeah.
You know, like, but I find that to be very gimmicky now. Like
The tin cups is the first time I ever saw it was at 709.
yeah, it was like, come on, enough already. Because we saw it in Vegas, and because the whole thing of 709 was all about a Vegas style restaurant. So we saw it in Vegas. We're like, oh, we got because that was the new thing though, 15 years ago. Now I think it's you know, you got the average fast casual place doing that. And you're just like, eh.
You know, it helps obviously with portion, control in the grand scheme of things. But I mean, you can still put them on a plate and still make it look beautiful.
There's always
and
always
nice,
ways.
I mean,
So what would you say is the most underrated food or concept right now in the industry?
underrated food. I mean, I think pasta, honestly, is very underrated.
Okay.
Just because it's a blank canvas with so
Right.
many things that you can do in homemade pastas, right?
Right.
So everyone can go to the store, they can buy their pastas, and they can make something. But homemade pasta is very underrated and such a wonderful experience to have something that is done right, done correctly, and it's an open canvas.
Do you
There's
make
nothing.
your own homemade pasta at Park Social?
Honestly, we were at the very beginning, and then it just got to a point that we couldn't keep up. So, reality is you gotta make moves to
Sure.
to what
Absolutely. You gotta do what's best for the
I
business.
I wish we could, but keeping up with it, we could not do it.
Got it.
And it was it's a lot of work. I mean, it's almost a dedicated person, like a pastry chef. You need to
Okay.
have somebody that's there in the morning banging out pasta to keep it fresh. But I really feel that pasta can go a
There's
long
more to it.
way, and it's just not done. A lot
Yeah.
of people just buy stuff and
Well, making fresh pasta is an art,
right.
and a lot of people don't have that skill set to do it. Plus, you need the right equipment.
Yes.
And if you don't have the right equipment, it's not going to come out the right way.
And temperature.
I mean,
room,
everybody can
kitchen,
sit home.
I mean, there's a
and-
lot of variables.
right, and roll it out, and then roll on the crank pasta wheel. Anybody can really do that, but to do it in a restaurant setting,
Yep.
to crank that out, it's a 20. It was a 24-hour deal. That's why we switched to,
Yep.
and they make great machines from Italy and stuff that do all that stuff with dies that you can cut and all that stuff, but it's a lot of money.
During
very expensive.
during COVID, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law bought a machine, and me and my wife went up there and made pasta one night. And
But it is
was
an
a
art.
lot of fun. But yeah, I could see how it's not.
Yeah,
it's not a fast. It's not a fast.
No, it's not.
it's
and
not.
and you got to dry it properly. You have to use the right ingredients. You have to use really good flour, semolina, durum. I mean, it's a true art form. And I remember I learned when I was a kid how to make it, and I was like, this is the biggest pain in the ass I've ever had in my life. But the pasta is delicious, and good pasta, cooks very fast.
Yeah.
But there is no al dente in real homemade pasta either. Too, there is no al dente. You got to cook
Okay.
it. You have to cook it through. But again, like you said, blank. You could really do anything.
There's just so much to
There's
it
so
of,
much.
of filling that I feel it very well could be just the area that we're in. That's not something that's taken. It could
Yeah.
be I'm sure there's plenty of places that obviously do it and that's their thing. But I just
But pasta
feel it's-
also, as a whole, is so broad that it's not just a penne cut or a linguine. You're talking tortellinis, raviolis. You're talking like so many different. You're doing whole sheets for like manigot or lasagna. There's so much broad with pasta. My other thing that I love pasta is I'm a noodle guy, so. Asian, with the noodles, the lo mein, the mai fun, the chow fun, all the different kinds of funs. But I'm a noodle guy. I love noodles. So,
You heard it here first. He's a noodle guy.
I'm a noodle guy. Give me noodles.
All the fun.
And that's a whole nother world too to get into when you start getting into noodles.
It is.
Listen, it's such a vast area to even. We could be here for days talking about noodles and pasta. The good thing about those two things, they're money makers. Mm-hmm. You can make a lot of money with them.
Yeah.
And you don't have to add lobster or shrimp to every one. You could really do, a basic aioli with garlic olive oil with a nice capellini or something. It's one of the best things you could probably eat in your life, and it costs you $1 to make. It's great. All right, so moving on. Let's talk about do you watch any cooking TV shows or any shows that you like that's on TV right now?
I mean, yes.
Competitions or anything?
Yes. I mean, Food Network, obviously, that's on, and you have, the vast variety of shows that they have on there. It's kind of one of the things, get home and kind of turn on nonsense TV to kind of unwind, and it always seems to fall on Food Network or what's going on there. Obviously, back in the day, Anthony Bourdain, that would be something that you could put on and watch over and over again, just because not only, just him talking about food, but just the way that he spoke was, inspiring and very cool in different locations that, he went to. There's Gordon Ramsay has one right now. I think it's called Uncharted, I believe it's called. And
he pretty much filled the shoes.
On Discovery, he filled that. And that's a pretty cool concept, too.
Yeah. He's got to cook against other people and stuff.
Yeah, other people learning the food and kind of what they're doing and the food of each individual area that he goes to. So if it's Thailand, he's learning,
it's great. I watch it. It's really good.
Unfortunately, as much as you want to clock out from the kitchen, I come home and I turn on cooking shows.
But do you ever get ideas or techniques or learn and go, wow, that's pretty cool. I never seen it. Because I do that. I sit home 100%. And I'm like, wow, I've never seen that before. I've never seen that technique. And I write it down. I'm like, just so I remember it.
Right.
And then try to not emulate it, do my own style with it, but use that technique.
100%.
You know what I'm saying?
Unfortunately, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook.
Yes, huge.
Pinterest. There's just so many things that are out there now that people are putting up food, and whether it's real or if it's AI at this point, I don't know. But either way,
it's pretty good.
It looks amazing.
Cool.
So it gives you, it sparks the ideas.
But what's funny is back in the day, like especially me, because I'm older, growing up, we never had any of that stuff. We never had phones or anything. So if we wanted to find a cool, we bought the cookbook. And just read the recipe and look at the pictures, and that's why like Charlie Trotter was one of my influences because his work was just so amazing out in front of you. Alfred Portali from Gotham Bar and Grill, like just looking at this stuff, French Laundry, you're like your head just going whoosh. But now it's easy to just bring some up on YouTube or any social media. It's pretty wild. But a new show that's out, America's Culinary Cup. It's on Wednesdays. Padma Lakshmi, she used to do Top Chef. Now she's doing her own cooking show. That's a good one because it's all like really super high end Michelin star chefs that are competing. It's not just your average. It's not even like. I think James Beard Award winners are like you don't even belong here. Like it's all like next level. Bocuse d'Or and France, like the team captain's there, and one of his proteges are there. So you're talking the heavy, high-end people there, mainly all Michelin star guys, and they're just like made to just go for $1 million. Yeah. Great show. It's on Wednesday. You got to check it out. It's really, really cool. I really got into that stuff because a lot of the stuff is so far advanced that it's tough to relate to, like on a normal setting, like in a regular restaurant. Because these guys are doing stuff that you would take 14 hours to eat, and it's this big. And it took 39 guys to make, But it's funny to watch that. But that's one of the new ones I like. So keeping on the same topic, do you have a favorite chef mentor that you look up to, or mentors that you like? I just said Trotter and Alfred Portali. Do you have somebody like that?
Yeah,
that you look up to.
We're gonna have to go with obviously Thomas Keller. Is from the time frame that I started, in this industry, he was obviously, at his top as far as an American chef. And then, I mean, there's so many, obviously. But I mean, when I was a kid, it was before Food Network came out. You know, I mean, I was watching Julia Childs. I was watching Yen Can Cook.
Right.
You know, I was watching, you know, the stuff that was on, I don't know, I guess PBS or whatever it was at that point.
Yeah. No, it was
you know,
great.
the cooking shows. And
There was an Italian guy who used to drink the wine right out of the bottle. I forget his name. We'd be like, "Cheers for the day," and then just chug a bottle of wine. I'm like, I love this guy.
So Roy, you from the time you were a young kid, you had a desire and a passion for cooking.
yeah, you know, I mean, it was always something that was there. So, to explain why, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Now, did you go to
Like,
school? I forgot. Did you go to
I
school?
went to the French Culinary Institute.
Okay,
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, so graduated from there. And then there's actually, when you were talking about a cooking show, I think it's called America's Next Chef or something. Next Chef.
Next Level Chef?
I'm not entirely sure what it's on. I found it randomly, and I don't know if it was on Netflix or whatever it was that I found it on. But it happens. The competition happens at CIA.
Oh, yes. I
So,
did see that.
and it's
Yes.
younger. It's it's
Yes.
younger people that are are
Yes.
going, and they kind of form teams. But it happens to be one of my head instructor from the French Culinary Institute.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Chef Xavier happened to be on there, and I was
Wow.
scrolling through. I ended up watching it. I'm like, that guy looks familiar, and it ended up being him. And it cuts to a clip where, he's kind of like, is this okay with you? And the girl's like, yeah, it's okay. And he's like, okay. And it drew, PTSD of me being like, Chef, is this good? And he's like, do you like it? And I'm like, I think so. Should I not?
Should
like
I not like it? I think you're
I'm like,
telling me
did I
it's not
screw up?
perfect. Yep.
Already? All right.
Yep.
That's great.
But
I love it.
I mean, Thomas Keller, and I guess when the time that I graduated, molecular gastronomy was, kind of the big thing. So, you had Wiley and
Yeah.
that was out there. You had El Boule and that whole cookbook came
Sure.
out and
Yep.
all of that stuff. So that was kind of intriguing as far as the pushing of the boundaries and like the Willy Wonka aspect of things.
Yes.
Like here's this strawberry that, El Boule did that comes out that tastes, like a tomato. And you're like,
Yes,
what
yes,
the hell?
yes.
Like, and the foams and all of that
Yes.
stuff came out. So that always intrigued me, is how to push the boundaries of what is the norm and how can we tweak it? How can we play?
Right.
Because we're not creating anything anymore for the most part. We're like you said, you see something and you throw your own twist on it. And that's cool, but I mean, we're not inventing as chefs.
No.
We're pulling from here and there and
Right.
this and that, and then we're
Yes.
throwing our aspect on it. So
Yes.
that was kind of always the cool thing of how do we push the boundaries to turn something that everyone knows and make it look different and presented differently, and then you eat it, but it brings you back to the same
Yep.
concept of
I love it.
here's this tastes like a Reuben or
Well,
whatever
that's why you would
whatever
love
it
that
may
new
be.
American culinary thing, because Wiley is one of the judges.
Oh, nice.
And my guy Boudeleau, who's one of the best chefs in the world right now, he does exactly that.
Yeah.
And when he saw Wiley, like he's cooking for Wiley to come up with something like he made an olive out of something, but it was cheese, but it looked like a black olive, like that kind of kookiness. And he's probably going to win. That guy's like, I love him. I followed him from Top Chef and everything. Like, he's so good, Boudeleau. But that's what he does. A lot of nitrous, a lot of like cool shit that makes you go, what is this? I love that because that is art to me.
For me, my first love is art. I mean, originally I wanted to be, coming out of high school, to be an art history teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I loved art. I loved doing it. I worked for a graphic design company in New York City while I was going to culinary school. And I thought that was going to be my career. And then, I found a way to put that and food, which clearly, I love doing, together. And now, like I said, when molecular gastronomy came out and that whole aspect of things, that was
Yeah, I
a
remember.
whole different level of.
And I never really got. I remember you teaching me when we were at 709. We made like mushroom and turned it into dust or something like. And I'm just like, what is this stuff? And he would come to me with a list. I need this
Yep,
ingredients,
sure.
and we're gonna create we're gonna turn things into all different
Yep.
kinds of cuckoo things. And me, I didn't come from that world or even looked at it. Like I was just concentrating on old school sauces, old school presentation, old school, flavors, from the ground up. But we went up into the banquet kitchen and we just played one day and he was showing me all kinds of crazy stuff. And I was just like a kid in a candy store. My jaw was on the ground.
Yep, just watching.
Because it was so cool. And then we used it that night for a special.
Uh-huh.
We used everything that we created. We incorporated it into the specials. Whatever. Like I think we did. It was a scallop with like a mushroom dust or something. It was so cool, and people loved it. They went cuckoo over it. So, but no, I totally remember that stuff, and I knew you were really into it because you remember giving me the list, and you wanted to play. And
Yes, and now you have to kind of come back. It was
Yeah.
it like I said, one of the questions before was, what's overused or what's not overused? Is it getting too much now?
Well, see, here-
did that go down the rabbit hole?
100%. But
everyone's doing it.
Here's the biggest thing right now in this industry, because as you know, costs are through the roof.
Yeah.
Okay, meat is up, fish is up, everything is up. Okay, your utilities are up. All right, everything it's up, and we cannot really charge what we should charge, or that would be like $100 a plate. Reality.
Every plate.
And every plate $100 because that's the only way you can make profit and pay the bills. But we can't because we'll have no customers. So we have to have compromise. But the question is art versus business.
Right.
Okay. So you want to be creative and push the edge, but there's a cost to that.
Sure.
So you have to restrain. You have to pull back. Like I just got done writing 13 different really crazy menus. I mean, over the top stuff that no one's doing or seen, which I'm really excited about. The question was, I had to edit myself a lot because then I went back and looked at costs and how much this is really going to cost. How much this is going to cost per plate, and it wasn't in line because you have to. You need money makers today. You need
Sure.
money makers.
You need those pasta dishes.
to keep the doors open because you can do some high-end proteins and you can do some high-end stuff, but there's got to be a balance.
Yes.
There has to be stuff too that you could run at an 8 or 10% food cost because your high-end proteins are 50%.
Yep.
So the overall menu has to balance out at $29.30. Mm-hmm. But you need those lost leaders to get the people to come in the door.
Yeah.
But you got to sell them on a unique piece by using alternative cuts, alternative fish that people may not know about.
Sure.
That is more cost effective. The true magic, and this is where the Wonka situation comes in. The true magic is, and a great chef can take a $3 piece of cut of meat and turn it into a $50 dish. That's the true talent.
Yeah, and I mean, with everything that's going on in the world, and you have tariffs, and you have all of this stuff, and I don't know where everything comes from. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
But you have something where it's tapioca maltodextrin, and you have xanthium gum, and you have all this stuff. Wherever it ends up coming from the the Willy Wonka side of things, there's also natural ingredients that you can do it with. You know what I mean? You can bind something together, with the tops of carrots. And cook them down and use the actual ingredients that are in there that will bind something together. You can bind an octopus together just to make a carpaccio with its own gelatin that comes from it. So I mean, you can cut certain things out that are in there to be able to use the natural prospects of things and ingredients and things that.
But you see all the stuff you're saying? That needs talent and skill. Okay? You know these things.
Correct.
But as an average guy in an average restaurant, know anything about that?
No, well,
Because they're going to look at
psychos.
Yeah,
So,
they're going to look at an
you
octopus and go, "How do you even cook this thing?" Right? And we used to sell a lot of octopus every week. I mean, we would do a ton of octopus, and you got to know how to execute it. Mm-hmm. Octopus has to be tender because octopus can be tough as nails. You can bang it over somebody's head.
Yeah,
but it's got to be. You have to know how. You have to have a skill set and technique to do all of those things. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we used to do octopus carpaccio all the time, but we never. I know exactly how you were talking about binding it, and we would take the leg and freeze it and slice it paper thin on the slicer. But you have to freeze it because you can't do it when it's like cutting calamari. It has to be semi-frozen. But people, if you don't have that technique or knowledge to do that, you're not going to get an end game. But so in your restaurant that you do now, how are you battling the high costs that are out there right now?
Similar to what you said, I mean, we have our high ingredients, obviously, that are on there, but we also do have our pasta dishes. We also do have things that are affordable. You come in, sure, a pizza's, everything is expensive nowadays, but I mean, you're not spending $200 on a pizza, obviously. You can come into the restaurant and, drop a good amount of money. Between the food that we have, between the wines that we have, between the drinks, you can drop $1,000 without blinking an eye, for sure. But you can also come in reasonably and, have a nice meal that's not going to, max out the credit card. So you got to have your pastas, you got to have your salads, you got to have your appetizers. We did a fine split between. We're calling it small plates instead of tapas because it's a little bit bigger, so it's not like a one-bite situation. You get a couple bites out of it, but we have the small plates that are on there. We have our appetizers, our salads. You have the pizza, you have the pasta options. And then as soon as you start getting into the entrees, depending on what you want, we have short ribs.
Sure,
they're more expensive, but still reasonable in the grand scheme of things.
Correct.
We have airline chicken. I have a chicken Milanese that's on there. Again, still reasonable in the grand scheme of what the food is. And then you start to getting into the prime cuts of meats and the tomahawks and the Wagyu caps and things like that, which unfortunately you got to pay for.
Yeah, no, and they're not cheap.
I mean, it is what it is,
Now, do you find your restaurant is considered a special occasion restaurant more than an everyday eater?
I think we're still figuring that out because we're still new into it's a year and a half.
Have you been there since the get-go?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think we're still kind of figuring that out in that area, and I think the new developments that are coming with. So I've heard as to what they're going to bring to the waterfront potentially with headliner selling. Apparently Sunsets is getting out as well. There's something called the Neptune Waterways that the project that I've heard. I don't know if that is 100%, but it's, I've read some articles, I've heard from people, that's what they're looking to do, condos over there, a hotel over there, things like that. So that obviously would help, in the grand scheme of things, just to have that foot traffic. It's a weird area with that roundabout.
That U-turn.
U-turn that you come and you got, both lanes coming from Asbury and also coming down from Kelly's. If you're not paying attention, you're out. You're getting
definitely. You're
it's a quick turn.
Right.
So,
totally.
But again, with us, we see a lot of new people coming in and a lot of new faces, and we're starting to build that loyalty, crowd that we do see that have been there multiple times. So I think just because we're still so new, that's
right.
It's a work in progress, I guess, is probably.
And the reason why I'm saying that because we got pigeonholed as a special occasion restaurant for 20-something years, and we had money makers on the menu.
God bless.
And we also had all high-end proteins. And the problem that we had was everybody coming there is coming for a special occasion, so they want all the high-end proteins.
Right.
No one wanted the pasta. No one wanted the chicken. No one wanted, they want the Wagyu. They want the big tail. They want the Tommy. They want all the Chilean sea bass was our number one seller. We would sell 300 pounds of it a week. I mean, it was. And that and scallops. Scallops was ridiculous. And we get everything. We get the scallops right at a point from a fishing boat. Would bring them right down to me the same day, and it was just you can eat them right out of the bag like Shira cubes. They were so sweet, which we really loved. But that's the problem I had because I had some money makers on there, but no one wanted them. They all wanted the 50% food cost stuff because they're there celebrating. And listen, I get it. When you go out, and I'm thankful that they came. Listen,
good thing you had the bar.
Well, I had the bar, but thank God that they came out because they can go anywhere. They could choose. You really you can't alienate the customers because if you talk bad about the customers, they could just really go anywhere they want to go.
Yeah, there's plenty of choices.
And there's a lot of people that talk a lot of smack about customers, and you need them. You have to thank them for coming out because the choices today are amazing. Like there's
so many.
There's so many. Not only choices of like great places to go, but choices of like food, like around the world. You could really eat around the world because everybody now has brought something to the table of something crazy. You know, like there's really, back in the day, there was one Italian joint, there was one Chinese joint, you know, there was one Mexican joint. Now,
and then you
hundreds.
Have the fusion aspect of it. I think I just read something where it was Mexican and Indian fusion, like together. You know, I mean, so.
Well, that's my MO. I'm transcontinental fusion. I'm fusion all the way, man. I like to mix and match and be kooky where you come in and you go, what do they classify you as? I go, transcontinental fusion, baby. Let's get kooky. Just because it makes it exciting. It's never, ever boring.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Because you want to push the envelope a little bit. But also, too, I'm very seasonality where I love changing the menus with the season. Like, if you don't change your menu with the seasons, you're just going to be at a stalemate. You're not going to move. You're just going to be there. I know some popular restaurants that haven't changed their menu in years. And it's kind of like, same old, you know. Nah, man, I am just full-blown, gotta reinvent it. And also, too, because the business that we're in is perishable and commodities, which the prices change daily, weekly. So we have to keep adjusting. Because if we don't, we're going to be out of business. You know,
it also gets monotonous. You know,
Yeah.
as you know, as a chef, as a cook,
as a creative artist,
you know, like you just you
right.
you know you
Correct. Correct.
You want to keep growing and keep pushing and find, you know, what's fun, what's a new ingredient, what's, you know, what seasonality is.
Yes.
You know, bringing what to us.
So it's not only the starch, it's your not only the high end proteins, but it's also the vegetables. Because vegetables change with the season and what's available and what's kind of cool to work with and what's, you know, especially the summer season right here, we have great produce. I mean, obviously our Jersey corn, blackberries, blueberries, you know, a lot of people forget about that. They're from Jersey too, and they're awesome. But, you know, when you put something on the menu, let's say you put swordfish on, okay, and you're buying swordfish now at $8, okay, and 2 months later, swordfish is at $19, but you priced it for $8.
Sure.
So how do you manage that? Do you take it off, or do you add it onto the menu? So when you do menu changes, that's where you could A, take it off, or B, increase the price if it's a big seller. You know, so it's all, and that's the other thing people forget, and this is from an owner standpoint, from a chef owner standpoint, because again, I'm on the cutting edge of creative versus costs. Right. All the time, and I'm questioning both, and I'm figuring things out before we actually make commitments. But the question is that this is still a business that people forget sometimes.
Yeah,
it's a business, and if we don't make money, and if we don't, then we can't afford payroll. We can't afford the cool plate that you want to put it on. We can't afford the smoking gun to make things smoke. We can't afford that higher end protein that we're going to run as a special this week.
Yep.
You know, we want to bring in foie, we want to bring in caviar, we want to bring in all the luxury ingredients, which they're called, right? Can't be afford that.
You need that balance. You need that balance.
You can't afford it if you're not bringing in if you're not filling the register. If the register ain't ringing, bing, 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 that does not give us money to do anything that we really want to do.
Sure.
So there's always that fine line, man. We got to find, how do you take a piece of chicken and make it the most spectacular piece of chicken, but it's still chicken, but make people go, what on the planet Earth is this?
So let's talk about your airline chicken. So talk about that a little bit.
It's a sous vide airline chicken. There's it's not over the top. You know what I mean? It's just done right. It's sous vide. You know, we have a little bit of butter that's in there, some thyme, some aromatics.
But people love it.
But it's just, you know, it's cooked properly. It's got a nice sear on it to finish it off. You got a crispy skin to it. It's moist. You know, I mean, you overcook chicken, there's no coming back.
There's no going back.
You can't fake it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You can't fake chicken with, you know, extra sauce.
Sure.
it's still gonna be dry. Like,
It's still dried out chicken.
You're still gonna taste it no matter how much sauce you put it in.
So the
Totally.
last thing before we wrap up is I want to get into is besides talking about your great restaurant is staffing. How do you manage? Because we know together, we both know how many animals are out there and how many qualified. Like, it's very rare. How do you manage that? How do you train that? And how do you keep the cost of labor sort of in line? Because now everybody's looking for big money.
Right.
So how do you manage that?
That's a tough one. Unfortunately, the reality is, you have to take a little bit more on your own shoulders of things and dive back into not so much the clerical aspect of things, but the hands-on aspect of things to be able to help out with something. If you're able to push somebody back a couple of hours and do that prep work yourself, whether it's big, small, whatever that may be, you have to. It's not the same thing. When we were, at 709 in the beginning, line cooks were what? $15, $16 an hour.
I think even cheaper than that.
Around that,
Yeah, might have been
now
around that,
we're looking at $32 an hour.
Yeah.
People asking for.
Well, the
It's
minimum wage is
insane.
16, so that's already, you're not
But
getting below
you're
that.
getting a good cook, you know what I mean? And
100%.
somebody that can actually stand on the line and
Yes.
hold down,
Yes.
you're looking, mid-20s to upper 30s.
Especially like a good grill guy who can actually
Yeah,
get temps,
that's-
and even like a good pizza guy that could actually
Yes.
make a good pie and know the technique and learn. But like even sous vide, like you talked about sous vide. I know what sous vide is, you know sous vide, but half the kitchen might know not what it is.
Yeah, sure.
And we might have 5 dishes on there going at all different times at different temps on the line.
Yep.
And you're just pulling bags and you're searing off, because you already had that thing going. So they have to know the technique
Yes.
on how to do it, and you could it's nice when somebody knows when you walk in and go, hey, we're gonna do sous vide lamb chops, and they're like, fine, let's go, what's the marinade, like, what are we doing? And you're like, wow, oh my god, finally, yes. But then you're gonna get a guy, hey, we're gonna sous vide wild boar rack tonight, and they're gonna look at you like they're gonna tilt their head like the dog that doesn't understand what the hell you're talking about. That's when you go, shit, like what? And the guy's getting $25 an hour.
Yeah.
Because
He's
tell
good
you
at everything else.
Yeah, but
just has no idea.
yeah,
Sure.
but he'll tell you too. He goes, and if you tell him, listen, man, he'll just go, listen, I'll go right down the road and get 26. He goes, it doesn't matter to me, because the art of loyalty is
Yeah.
gone.
Sure.
Is gone. Back in the day, I worked in some really super high-end restaurants along all of this country, and I worked for $4 an hour.
Yeah.
$5 an hour, just because to get the name on the resume, but 2 to learn. But I was younger. I was in my mid-20s. I was very aggressive. I was a sponge. I just wanted to learn. I wanted to learn technique. I wanted to learn why. And I lived in some great states where they have their own, like when I was living in Arizona and New Mexico and California, produce was king.
Sure.
It was more than the protein, because produce out there is where we get our produce.
Yeah.
And like I seen a bell pepper like this before. I didn't know
Nice.
what the hell it was. I'm like, and it was the sweetest, juiciest bell pepper, because they don't export their great stuff. We get like the second tier.
Sure.
They keep all, but like chilies. I learned when I lived in New Mexico, I learned so much about chilies that there's 150 different kinds of chilies out there. And I knew probably like 2.
Uh-huh.
And I found out the hard way about one. I'll tell you a quick story. I was working with Anaheim peppers, which I never knew about before. Now I'm like 22, 23 years old, and I'm working with an Anaheim pepper, and I never took the seeds out. And I was cutting it up for a salsa or something I was doing at the time, and I was just a line cook, but I'm trying to learn. And I didn't have gloves on. Big mistake number 1. When working with chilies, you always wear gloves, no matter how hot or whatever Scoville unit they're on. And I went and I rubbed my eye, and I got a seed in my eye. Jeez. My eye just instantly went, and it blew up like this. I've never felt pain like that.
Oh, gosh.
Where they had to, the medical team had to come and flush my eye out for like an hour, just constantly flushing my eye, because my eye actually sealed up. So, yeah, I don't touch Anaheims anymore. No, I do, but I wear gloves and I know. So the respect of the chile is very important now. And I tell all young cooks, and I try to mentor them. I go, when you're working with chilies, even dry chilies, because the seed is the most hottest part, what has all the Scoville units and all the oils. I says, just wear gloves and be careful. Don't go touching any part of your body, because a lot of guys will go in the bathroom and you're screaming, Jesus Lord. But so that's the mutual respect of the ingredients. Sure. But that's how you learn. And I wrote everything down when I was so I have these notebooks like this stacked of everything that I wrote down, because again, no phones, computers.
Yep, sure.
You're talking early 90s. So like none of that even existed yet. But it was great to learn everybody's different culture, the way they talked and spoke. And, like when I worked in Tulsa, Oklahoma. In Tulsa, we're on the line. I worked at a DoubleTree Hotel, which is a very, very high note. I worked at a place called the Warren Duck Club, and that's all they did is duck. It was duck 50 different ways. It was really cool. You would have dug it because they had an escoffier rôtissière made of brass in the middle of the dining room that could hold 50 ducks. It was giant. And we'd load that thing up, and we had a backup one in the back. And then when it was done, we'd take them, pull them off, and then load the other one in, and it was constantly going. So the people are eating duck, and they're seeing it being rôtissière.
That smell's got to be amazing.
Oh, my God, right?
It's got to be amazing.
But we made everything, man. We made our own duck sausage. We made duck salads. We made red bean and blackened duck soup. I mean, everything. We used that animal from head to feet, and I learned so much about duck that year.
That's awesome.
Again, the culture is, these guys are chewing tobacco on the line.
Yep.
Spitting on the line as they're working.
Great.
How y'all doing? And I'm like, what kind of culture is this? Like, again, late 80s, it was just...
Roy, I don't want to hear about that happening at your place.
No. Right? Different culture. I don't know if they're even still doing it there. Yeah. Can you imagine? They might be just normal to them. Who the hell knows? But here, you spit on my line, I'm punching you dead in the face. I'm dragging you out by your teeth. But the culture has changed so much in the industry.
Yeah.
Now it's a very PC, very controlled atmosphere, which is, I'm not mocking it. It's the new way of the world.
Times have changed.
I respect it. I had to relearn about it, right? As you did.
Yeah.
Because we came from a different culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've proven that. But we couldn't do the things that we did back, and that was 15 years ago. We couldn't do that today.
Yeah, sure.
We would literally be arrested. Like they would come on the line and take us right out.
That's fair.
And but you're more aware of it today. In the world, you're more, what I had to do, because I've always had a loud mouth and always was very aggressive speaking, I had to stop and think before I would talk.
Yeah, definitely.
I have to figure it all out in my head.
Think about it before those words come out of the mouth.
You know what I'm saying?
Once those words are out of the mouth, they can't go back in.
Because the other problem too, it's not a problem, I guess, it's what the new generation is. Everyone has this, and they're recording you all the time. And
always.
And you're always on some kind of microphone.
Always.
To record your.
Always.
So they use it against you because, again, there's no loyalty. And if they could find an edge, can you imagine?
No.
So.
No.
But people like this to you now.
Yep.
Like I would give pre-meal, and people like this at pre-meal. I'm like, why you guys recording me at pre-meal? Oh, just to have it, to look back. Because they wanted me to slip up.
Yep.
They wanted me to say something that was derogative or, which I would never do, or against their culture.
Sure.
Or the way they live. But I didn't.
I would expect nothing less.
No, I've always maintained the professionalism.
Perfect.
Always. And still to this day, very, very pro. Because that's my mindset today, which I think I talked to both of these about, is I'm Michelin-minded.
Yep.
We don't have the Michelin guidebook in this state, which I'm very shocked at.
It's very strange.
I talked to James Avery about it, and James was like, because we don't have a good food culture here, and I might have to disagree with that. I think we do. I think some of the top restaurants up in North Jersey compete with New York restaurants.
100%. Back in the day,
Yeah,
Nicholas,
so I think
worked at Nicholas.
Yes,
guarantee
100%
that would stand
100%.
When Nicholas was doing what it was doing with any restaurant,
I agree, because he was the top dog for many years and won every award there is. And
there's no way that would not be a Michelin.
You guys were making soups to order. I mean, it was insanity what you guys were doing. But my mindset moving forward is Michelin-minded, which it doesn't mean that I'm going for a star. It means that my thought process is perfection,
Yes,
professionalism,
definitely.
And the way to get that is you got to build that team culture, and my culture is very simple. One voice, one team. It's a straightforward culture, and it's about completely synchronicity, teamwork between all of the departments. Between your front of the house, your bar, your hostess, it's all gotta gel. Everyone has to be in cadence with each other. Because if one area screws up, we're all screwed up.
Totally.
We're all done.
100%.
And it doesn't matter if the hostess didn't greet somebody properly, to the bartender didn't make a perfect old fashioned, to the kitchen forgetting a garnish on a foie gras plate, to the server not delivering it properly and pouring the sauce over it at the table.
Definitely.
We're done.
You need it. It
We're
all
done.
has to flow.
And the way to get that, to execute that, is training, where we do it every day. We're repetitive. We go through your head. So everybody knows the standard. Everybody knows their role. Everybody knows what they got to do. Mm-hmm. And it's really, truly about the hospitality. It really, really is about the hospitality. I don't want you to come just a place to fill your belly. That's not my intention. My intention is for the hospitality part of it. For me when you walk in the door, you're just like, whoa, what is this? And I want you to leave going, holy blank, what did we just go through?
And I think that's what your restaurant's aiming to do.
Yes, and it has to be. At this point, like you said, there's so many options.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
really
how
is.
do you find your own niche?
You got to find your niche and then excel at
Well,
it.
you have
Right.
to figure out what category you want to be in.
Yeah.
Like, where do you want to be? Do you want to be the special occasion restaurant that does nice work? Or do you want to be the fast casual?
Can you be both? Can you not be both? You know what I mean? Like, it's again, it's a fine line to walk through with so many new places opening, so many new ideas. Are you following the trends and everyone else? Are you stepping outside of the box? Is that a dangerous game? Like, I'm not an owner. I'm just, a chef in the aspect of things. But like, as an owner standpoint, when it's your money, you know what I mean? Like, how do you walk that line? How do you decide, do I step out and say, I'm going to stand on my own island over here and do my own thing? Is that a good idea? Is that a bad idea? I mean, it's tough. I think, Park Social is something different than what we have in this area. So that's great. And, Sabrina's idea and coming up with that, and Matt and the whole management team and, coming together to create what they have, I think is something completely different than what we have in this area. Now, does that mean that sets us apart just because of the atmosphere, because of the food? I don't know. It goes back to you saying, are we a specialty place? I think we're still figuring that out. And I think that's the most honest answer that I can give, is that we're still so new that it's still evolving.
You'll find your way.
It's still evolving, as
you'll
to
definitely find your way.
what it is.
I've had a lot of people go there. I haven't been there personally yet. I still want to come. But I've had a lot of people go there, and their biggest thing was the service was over the top. They felt that they were very, very well taken care of. And there's a couple instances where you were mentioned that you came out of the kitchen and talked to a couple of friends of mine, and that they wanted something like different, and you provided them with that.
I remember the conversation.
Yeah,
We took a picture and sent it to you.
And that my friend Steve Shadiak, one of the best guys in the world, but he was so blown away by that you went that extra step to take care, and you didn't even know that he knew me at that point.
I did not. No.
So if you're doing that for everyone, you're on the right track, because that is the extra step that's going to put you on top and over the edge.
We have to be now,
I agree.
And I'm not,
I agree.
I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass, but I did learn a lot of that aspect from you, from the front of the house, from talking to people, from things. I mean, we all grow and we take a little piece of
absolutely.
whoever we worked with,
Absolutely.
with us. And
we're always learning.
You
we're
learn the good and the
always
bad.
learning.
And,
every single time we're learning.
Do I belong in the front of the house? Hell no.
Not with that cuckoo beard.
No chance.
Rasta the Wild Mountain Man.
But I mean, can you manage yourself out there and go out there and talk to people and act like an adult and care for the business? Yes, you can.
No, that's awesome.
And it's a smart thing to do at the end of the day.
Yeah, no,
you know
I
what
agree.
I mean? And people had complaints, and I've gone out there and I've spoken with them, and very quickly it doesn't turn necessarily into a complaint. Maybe they just wanted to vent to somebody else other than their server. And you go out and no, everything is fine. Everything is great. We just thought X, Y, and Z. So
No, I got you.
I feel like people just,
Sure.
kind of want to be heard a little bit more
Sometimes.
so than,
Yeah, no, I
than
agree.
just brushed off of.
A
Yep.
server.
No, that's cool. So tell everybody where we can find you, and tell everybody at the restaurant to
Yeah.
give them all the credentials.
Park Social, Neptune, New Jersey, right next to what used to be Headliner, which is no more. So we'll see if that changes into the project, which could be very cool for the area.
That'd be a great upgrade for the area.
It would be amazing. I mean, when you think about the hotel aspects of what we have around this area, there's really not much
Fair.
of anything that's nice. You know what I mean? For people to come down from New York City or up from or over from Philly, however you want to look at it, but a nice hotel.
Definitely.
And they want to do condos there on the waterfront, shops and things like that. Again, Neptune Waterways is the project that I've heard. But again, Park Social, like I said, we have a
You're on Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. where you can
Facebook,
find-
Instagram. We got all of that. That's
Yep.
going on right now.
Huge.
I've tried a little bit of TikTok videos that tried to put out there. That's it's a little bit of a pain in the ass to do TikTok videos. Not gonna lie to
I don't
you.
even know. I don't even know where
Trying to
begin.
figure out the buttons and how to
Yeah,
stop
yeah,
and
it's crazy.
pre-record.
That's what Andrew does.
I might be
Yeah,
getting
God
I
bless
might
you.
be getting too old for that.
I'm definitely too old for it.
It was great having you on today. Thank
It
you
was,
for
man. I
coming
appreciate
in.
it. Thanks,
Thank
Roy.
you.
Again, check Roy out at Park Social. He's one of the best around. If you really wanted a spectacular meal, not only cooked properly, but presented properly. And the service and the decor of the restaurant is absolutely beautiful. You will not be disappointed. Make sure you go check him out. But again, thank you so much for coming on the Chef Series. And
Thank
we
you.
will see you soon, my friend.
Cheers.
Thank you so
Cheers.
much. Cheers. Salud.